Back in 2004, my older sister developed a curiosity for the supernatural and would secretly play the Ouija board with her friends in our family home. My mother had a few disturbing experiences with Ouija boards and did not approve of my sister playing with one. Around April 2005 was when we started noticing strange activity in the house. We would wake up to broken plates and cups in our lounge room, things missing or turning up in strange places, tapping, and doors opening and closing late at night, with no possibility of anyone being anywhere near those said doors at night. In October 2005, the activity increased. We would hear our names being called by disembodied voices, music late at night, objects moved right in front of our eyes, catch glimpses of shadow people moving around the house, and even being touched or grabbed in our beds. I recall an incident where my brother claimed to have been slapped in the face when he walked into the bathroom late at night, and also claimed to have seen a floating figure come towards him one night. In October 2005, I saw something that I am still scared to talk about even today. Because my 4 siblings and I were too scared to sleep in our own beds. By this stage, and our stepdad worked nights, my mother put us all in one room with her. I was on a blow-up mattress closer to the door, and I woke up to the sound of the door opening up behind me. I didn't want to look, move, or make a sound to draw it near me, and was hoping whatever came through that door would go for one of my siblings, and not me. So I closed my eyes and tried my hardest to look like I was asleep. Whatever this was came straight over to me. When it knelt down, I heard what I assumed was its bones cracking. I was frozen with fear when I felt a hand on my head. I felt its long nails scratching my scalp, and for about a minute, it was just quietly scratching my head, and I couldn't work up the courage to scream until it said, "Stay away from me." I screamed until my mom woke up and wouldn't sleep alone for the rest of the night. My mom found the Ouija board 2 days later and destroyed it, and the activity died down a lot, but not completely. We still would occasionally witness something, but not as often or as scary. I always wondered if whatever the thing was that told me to stay away from it was actually after my sister, and all I know is that she invited it into her life, and even now she has regular paranormal experiences in every house she lives in. This is when all my experiences began. I was 5 years old and lived in Paraysis, Missouri. Late one night, far past my bedtime, I woke up and heard a slight noise down the short hallway that connected my room and the kitchen and living room. I sat up in the bed and realized the living room light was on. It was brighter than the kitchen. That's how I knew this was a living room light. I got up and peeked around the corner to find my mother sitting on the couch. She was staring at this strange board sitting on top of her lap. I was going to call out to her, but I felt a warm hand on my left shoulder and a soft voice inside me say, "No." So I didn't. I just stood there staring at her. Within a few seconds, I see the planchette literally fly off of the board and hit the wall behind our TV. I jumped back because I realized that something wasn't right. As my mom wasn't touching the planchette, her arms were at her sides as though she was in some sort of trance. As I jumped back, I let out a breath, and immediately my mom looked up to me. The look on her face was not of her own. It was an angry look. I ran a little 5 feet away and jumped on my bed, quietly as I lay back down. I felt the air change, like evil was in my room. I heard my mom walk up to the door and stop. I opened my eyes just enough so she couldn't see that my eyes were open, and she was standing there, just staring at me. After about what seemed like an eternity, but really no longer than a few minutes, she backed up and walked away from the door. I was too terrified to look and see where she had gone, so I laid there and cried myself to sleep. Years later, I found the same board in my mom's cabinet and began to ask her questions about her experiences with the board. She told me it was my grandmother's, and apparently she would use it regularly. She stopped using the board because the spirit she was contacting was getting aggressive, and wouldn't go into further detail with my mom about it. My mom said that night she used it, it scared her so much, but she couldn't move from that spot on the couch. She said she felt frozen, as though she was on a cloud, and she had tried getting rid of the board, but somehow it would always end up back with her. When I was around the age of 15, me and a bunch of my friends were sleeping over at my house. One of my friends, Caitlin, was curious about what would happen if we messed with a Ouija board. So we got one out of my basement that had been there since I was born. We read and followed the instructions, but something weird started happening when the board started shaking. We all screamed and ran away from the board, and it suddenly flew up and nearly hit me on my head. We were home alone that night, so no one noticed the commotion. Glasses were flying off their shelves, dishes hit the floor, tables and chairs were flipped over, and we were all so scared. Thankfully, it stopped about 20 minutes later, and I had just realized something. We had released a demon. It was about 2 years later when the demon attacked again. I was lying in bed one night with my bedroom door open, and suddenly, out of nowhere, the door slammed shut. I got out of bed and opened the door again, looked outside to where the hallway was connected, and there was nothing there. I shut the door again and went to bed. Another year later, I moved out of the house, but I believe the demon followed me. When I was still unpacking, some of the boxes tipped over when I wasn't touching anything. It kept opening and slamming doors, and I was repeatedly hearing footsteps and something falling over. I tried ignoring it, and it went away for a couple months. It was the last straw when it was terrifying. My 4-year-old. This happened a couple weeks ago when my little 4-year-old boy kept asking me about the glowing red eyes watching him while he slept. I also heard him scream in the middle of the night, and I ran into his room. He was shaking and kept on saying, "That thing is scaring me." I talked to a priest, and he tossed holy water all over mine and my child's room. He also read a couple verses out of the Bible. The demon went away, but I'm terrified that thing will come back. I still pray at night, hoping it will never come back.